Welcome back to another episode of Real Results with Coach Joe. I'm your host, Joe Villegas. This is the program where we help you to improve your health, increase your wealth, and live a more fulfilling life. And with me today, I've got a very special guest. He is the creator of the MS Warrior program, and he is a fitness expert working with folks with disabilities and chronic illnesses. And he's also a friend. I want to welcome to the show, Dom Thorpe. Dom, welcome, brother. How are we doing?
I'm good, thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So Dom, I know you and I met a little while ago. The viewers don't know this, but we actually kind of first met the same program that I met Matt Boyles on, who was on a few episodes ago as well. So I got my brothers over in the UK, over across the ocean there, I get to hang with. But I know we all kind of started out in our own sort of new online coaching fitness business years ago, and we've all kind of gone our own separate ways. And you've gone a very special route, and I've always admired the work you do, folks who have MS and other disabilities and chronic illnesses and things like that. I want to share your story. That's where I want to start. I want to share your story with viewers so they can hear how you came up in the ranks and got into the work that you do today. So if you could please take it away and share how you became you.
Sure. So I guess from a fitness perspective, I kind of fell into the industry because I went actually to university to study design engineering, but it was designing sports equipment, quite a niche industry to go into. But while I was at university, I needed a part-time job, and I ended up working in the gym. Yeah. So I was building up my qualifications. In the background, there's my mum, who obviously was in the foreground for most of my life, but obviously she had multiple sclerosis. And by the time I'd left and gone to university, her condition had started to deteriorate. So she became quite heavily disabled while I was kind of bumbling around building up fitness qualifications. And it wasn't until I saw an opportunity to go on a qualification for training people with disabilities that it sort of sparked my interest. And my immediate reaction was, well, disabled people can't exercise, because I was trying to imagine my mum doing the kind of exercise that I would do.
Right.
And but I went on the course out of interest because I was intrigued, and what I came away with was a whole heap of tools and a completely changed mindset about exercise for people with disabilities. And I just thought, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So by this point, I'd finished my degree, and I'm working in the gym actually full time. So, but I sort of set up my own website, launched a company behind the back of my manager, and started building up a client base, but primarily people with disabilities.
Right.
And that was back in 2008. 10 years or so face to face before I launched the online business, which was when I met you and came across you in the coaching course, and that was in 2018. And the online thing has kind of boomed since then, really.
Yeah, it's and it's amazing too. So I know, Dom, I feel like a lot of people might have a similar reaction that you did, right? When they first hear oh, well, someone with MS or some other disability, what are they going to do for exercise? But I mean, I watch the stuff that you post online, and there's so many variations of what we consider to be exercise that really it's applicable to anyone that wants to explore it. So what I would love to learn about myself even on this conversation, but to share with the viewers is, where do you start? Someone comes to you and says, hey, I have this condition or this thing going on. How can I begin to incorporate exercise into my life? How do you take a client from square zero, right, from point one, all the way through incorporating exercise into their life?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting question. That's probably the $1 million question, right, when it comes to fitness for people with disabilities. Yeah. Now, the philosophy that I went out with initially, and which is one that I still maintain now, is start with the can.
Yes.
Because so many people with a disability or a chronic illness are focused on can't. I can't do this, I can't do that. So I'm like, well, you can do something. Let's look at what you can do. Yes. And then we use that as a springboard. So once people start doing certain types of exercise, then we can explore maybe what they can't, and is there a way to modify things that they can do in a way that we can help them achieve certainly the things that they can't do or didn't think they'd ever be able to do. But fundamentally, pretty much all of the same fitness principles apply, right? We're trying to increase strength. It's the same methodology. We're trying to increase cardiovascular fitness. It's the same weight loss. All of the same principles are there. You just have to adapt them slightly for people who's, and in this industry, we're talking about lots of bad balance, legs not working, and fatigue. Fatigue is a massive one with my audience, particularly with MS, but I work with a lot of chronic fatigue clients, ME. We're seeing a lot of long COVID clients come through the doors as well, which is ironic because I've got COVID at the moment, as I was telling you, not long COVID, fortunately. So, but we're just adapting existing mechanisms to help people improve their physical performance, and make it manageable in a way that they can do it, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. I know back, like, for a little peek behind the curtain on Coach Joe's life. So I was a CrossFit coach for a little over a decade, and we had one particular client. I won't say his name just for his own privacy, but he was wheelchair bound. Right, he's paraplegic, and we talk about in CrossFit, like, the movements are infinitely scalable. Right, you can adjust them, make them harder, make them easier, and what have you. And it was beautiful to see him come in, be a little apprehensive at first. It's like, hey, what am I going to do? Am I working out with the rest of the class and all that kind of stuff? And within a matter of weeks, we had got him not only comfortable with the idea of doing that, but getting incorporated into the group, and then just scaling movements to fit his situation. And it's kind of like funny in a way, because it's no different than scaling for someone who's in their 80s working out next to some D1 athlete over here who's power cleaning 300 pounds, or in your case, 140 kilos or whatever that is. So it's something that you can share with everybody. And I see that in you, like, your excitement for fitness and your excitement to serve really comes through in what you do for folks. So I want to make sure people understand that, and I honor you for that, because it's really incredible to watch. So yeah,
that's it.
Please.
I was going to say, a lot of it is about trying to change my clients' attitudes, because I still get shouted at online, if you like, by people that have MS or have chronic fatigue, and they see an advert that's popped up to try and encourage them to do exercise, and they're saying, you don't know anything, you can't exercise if you've got MS. And I'm like, well, I've worked with thousands of people with MS that can. Arguably, I have not first-hand experience of the condition, but with the broad spectrum of clients that I've worked with and growing up with a mum, I will have more experience than most individuals with regards to exercise. So, I know what works, and I know how to get people results, and that's what people are here for, I suppose. But I think a lot of the time the goals are slightly different with my audience, whereas your average person might be looking at the beach body or fitting into the dresses or boosted confidence. A lot of my clients are doing it for function and longevity, and the focus is much more on health as opposed to vanity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. And so, Dom, for the viewers, maybe, like, we're saying MS a lot, so multiple sclerosis, right, is the condition we're talking about. If you wouldn't mind, could you just maybe talk through, like, what are, maybe not the best question, but what are some typical, like, experiences those people go through with that condition, right? I know it's different for everybody, right? It is a wide range of what can happen, but in general, what are some things that folks with MS experience so the people watching can understand, like, here's what they're going through, and then we'll talk about how they can apply exercise to their life.
Yeah, cool. I mean, let's start off a bit by saying what multiple sclerosis is. It's a neurological condition where the body's immune system attacks the nervous system, causing scarring on the nerves throughout it starts in the brain, goes down the spinal cord, and can extend a little bit out. So effectively what this does is short circuits the system. Now, depending on where these attacks occur, it can mess with any aspect of the body. Common things we see are loss of coordination, weakness, reduction in muscle mass because they can't activate the muscles. Now, what might end up in paralysis further down the line can start in numbness and gradually get worse. But there are two types, or broadly speaking, two types of MS. One where people have a relapse and they get almost like a state of paralysis straight away, and then they recover from it, and then they can walk again, or whatever. Or you get progressive, which is where people get minor symptoms which build up over time. So you might get somebody noticing certain things, numbness when they're in their 20s, for example.
Right.
But over the years, gradually that translates to loss of balance, weakness in the legs, disorientation, drunkenness. But there's a lot of, I'm talking about the physical things at the moment, but there's a lot of mental challenges that come with it. People can forget words, people can have strange emotional experiences, like laughing for no reason in the wrong situations. Cognitive fog is a term described for just feeling like you can't really think or concentrate. So there's a lot we're dealing with, but the spectrum goes from people that have slight nervous disturbances like pins and needles, all the way through to people who are, effectively where my mum ended up, which was she was in a bed, couldn't speak, couldn't eat, couldn't move. So that's what I've seen that with that is the most extreme kind of end of the spectrum, if you like.
For
challenging,
sure.
to say the least.
Yeah, no doubt. And so, we know that's a big, broad spectrum. So for folks who maybe are watching this, maybe they have MS themselves or they know someone who does, getting them started with exercise, coming to a professional like yourself, I would imagine, and I could be just hallucinating this, but the mental barrier is probably sometimes even greater than the physical barrier to getting started with something like this. Would you agree?
Yeah, big time. There's a massive element of fear involved because these scenarios where maybe somebody used to be active previously, I talked to lots of people that used to do plenty of sport, competitive at college level and things like that. And then in their 20s, they have a relapse. All of a sudden, the legs aren't working the way they thought they were. They experience fatigue. And what they try and do often is pick up where they left off with the exercise, which usually ends badly. And the conclusion they come to is, well, I've tried exercise and it doesn't work.
Right.
You might find somebody who experiences fatigue do an intensive 1 hour long workout, which is a bad idea initially. I'm not saying you can't get there, right? But if you've had a break and you jump back in, you could be out of action in bed for a week or so afterwards.
Wow.
And that not only does that lead a lot of people to conclude that they can't exercise, it also gives them massive anxiety about the next attempt. So even when I see clients come to me and I've reassured them, I'm like, no, I promise you, we can do it. We just need to be a bit more careful about the approach. I know they still are anxious about that first workout and about how they're going to feel afterwards. So it is a lot of psychology as well as the physiology.
For sure, no doubt. And it is impressive to me how you take clients from that point of like you said, quite literal fear about the idea of exercise and get them to the point where, I see you posting stuff online where folks are in the gym regularly and they're doing their stuff and they're getting results and they regain that confidence and that sense of self is really incredible. So we're going to take a quick pause here to hear from our sponsors. When we come back, I'm going to keep grilling Dom with more questions about all the amazing work that he's doing here on Real Results. Hey, it's Coach Joe here, and I want to thank you for checking out this episode of Real Results. Since becoming a coach over a decade ago and getting to help tons of people make incredible transformations, I've made it my mission to find the most effective tools to help people change their health and ultimately their life. As a thank you for watching this episode, I've created a series of free mini courses, downloads, and resources that you can use to create real change in your life. Simply click the link in the description or head over to www.resultswithjoe.com and click on the free resources tab. All you have to do is sign up using your best email address and you'll have access to all the resources straight away so you can start to create real change in your life. I look forward to seeing you on the inside, and let's enjoy the rest of this episode. Welcome back to Real Results. Again, with me today I've got Dom Thorpe, who does incredible fitness work with folks with MS, multiple sclerosis, but also other chronic illnesses and disabilities. And we were just having a conversation about the mindset around getting into the gym, the fear that people can experience. And Dom, you've been taking clients through this evolution, for years now. We covered the mindset piece, but there's an even stronger piece of the human psyche that I want to touch on, and that's the concept of identity. It's actually a concept that's come up on this show a lot with the guests that I have on, so I'm excited to talk with you about it today. but I think it would be really interesting to discuss how you take folks from where they are today, if they're just getting started with exercise with the condition they have, and getting them into a more empowering identity. So I know you're a master of this topic. I'll let you take it away, but would love to hear your thoughts on that.
That's that. Yeah, I mean, I think for me personally, and realizing the power of identity in fitness or in behavioral change in general has been something that has come up again and again over the past couple of years. And like, I'm still learning, and I'm sure that you're still learning as well, Joe. Like, with personal development, we're always trying to learn. But if you take someone who, let's look at just the average person who doesn't exercise, and then we're trying to get them to do a training regime and effectively become an exercise person, it takes a massive change in identity, not just how they perceive themselves, but social circles that they hang in, what their digital environment looks like, the behaviors that they practice. All of these things will link in, cement someone's identity, because effectively what we're trying to take someone from being is a person who says, oh, I've never really been into exercise, and make them adopt the attitude of, yeah, I'm an exerciser. I'm someone that trains. I work out, you know, and that's powerful. And if you can get to that mindset, first of all, you're far more likely to stick to a regime. So, and we're talking long term. I'm not talking do a 12-week program and then you're done, because this is where we see the people drop off the cliff at the end of the regime, right? We need to have established that and that identity and cemented it there. But when we're talking about disabilities or chronic illnesses, we've kind of got two scenarios that we're battling with. We've got, using the example that I mentioned before the break, the person who used to be fit, and that was part of their identity. And then all of a sudden, they can't do what they used to be able to do before. They almost need to adopt an entirely new identity. They need to go from the, I was the fit and healthy, that, you know, to the, now I'm the disability fitness person or the adapted fitness. I don't know. But a lot of the time, people feel like they've lost their identity and they can no longer be the person they used to be, purely because they're not able to exercise anymore. So when we layer the combination of that on top of someone who was never an exerciser before, you've got almost a double whammy of friction and resistance working against people. So I'm spending a lot of time with clients nowadays trying to get them to do the work, not just the exercise itself, but try and cement that identity and work on all of the other aspects, the beliefs, you know, understanding that that their physical ability is actually something they can change, and not just accepting, oh, now I'm disabled, that's it, I can't get any better or any stronger or any more mobile. I want them to believe you can. And if you do exercise and become an exercise person, suddenly your goal is constantly to personally develop yourself and improve your physical capabilities. So it's big, in my opinion, at the moment, and I'm focusing a lot on it.
Yeah, 100%. I could not agree with you more. I mean, even for the realm that I work in, mostly with folks who are looking to lose weight, right? If you're walking around saying, I'm fat, or I'm unhealthy, or I'm disabled, you are going to align yourself with that identity over time. Versus if you say, hey, you know, I have a condition of multiple sclerosis, right? I am not multiple sclerosis, right? It's something that you may have going on, but it's not the totality of who you are. You are so much more than that thing that you think you're identifying as, or the condition you have, or what have you, right? So getting clients to understand that, but also understanding the power of your words. Like after the words I am, whatever you tack on after that is what you're going to become if you say it enough. So for the sake of what Dom and I do, right, it's getting people to understand, saying, hey, I am healthy, right? I may not look the way or feel the way I want to as my ultimate goal just yet, and that's okay, right? We're all on a journey. But understanding, if I keep repeating to myself, hey, I am healthy, I am fit, you know, I'm taking the right steps to become the person I want to be, that stuff sticks. Like, that's for real. And people watching might say, I don't know, but try it. I'm telling you, try it for a week, and then try to stop it, because you're going to see results coming up, and you're going to want to keep it going. So the concept of identity is just so critical that it cannot be overlooked or understated in any way, shape, or form, or overstated rather. So, you know, it's Yeah.
I agree, and I think you're sort of almost referring about affirmations
Yeah.
to some degree, which I think are really powerful. But I always also think we must back them up with evidence as well. So rather, like you say, if you say, "Oh, I'm always been overweight," or "I've never been an exerciser,"
Right.
actually ask yourself, well, what is the definition of an exercise person, right? And it's someone that goes to the gym. And if you've been to the gym 5 times in a row, that's evidence to suggest that now you're an exerciser. And if you're someone that's always been overweight, but you're losing weight, that is reinforcing the fact that you are someone who can lose weight and can get to where they want to be. So backing it up with the hard evidence, I think, is equally powerful.
Absolutely. And I actually encourage folks to keep what I call a positive confirmation journal, or just like a note on their phone. So when those things pop up, they actually write it down and they don't just forget that it happened. They can go back at the end of the week and see, hey, actually there were 3 different times where I lined up with my identity spot on. We can say, look, it's not, we're not messing around. This is for real. This is who you are and who you're becoming. So definitely for folks watching, again, we can sit here all day and talk about identity for sure, but it is extremely powerful, especially in the case of the clients you work with, Dom, but anyone who's trying to make a change, it is critical. Now, I've got another question for you, Dom. I want to shift gears a little bit, just kind of selfishly from a weight training standpoint, but when it comes to programming for folks with their given condition, like how do you even go about putting that together? There's so many options out there. You could do, weight training, bodybuilding type stuff, maybe some power movements, cardio. I mean, the list is endless. How do you begin to put together a program? What's maybe some pointers we could share with viewers who are watching this and say, hey, I don't even know where to start? Like where can we begin with that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a good question. And I think there are, if I was doing a program for an able-bodied person, I would always start with the goals, all right? What is it you want to achieve? And the goal will then dictate the type of exercise and the strategy that you take when you're choosing the approach. It's kind of the same when you're working with someone who has a disability, but we also need to look at the who, okay? So this is where I would say, okay, well, the goal is increased strength, for example, but the who might be a person in a wheelchair versus someone who can walk but has slightly dodgy balance. So but it doesn't necessarily matter which order you look at it into, but we need to start with the who and the goals, okay? Once we've got those, as I said earlier, I'm all about the can. So if it's strength, I'm going to look at, right, well, this person is in this current state and they can do this, so what strength exercises can we put in? And it might be that someone in a wheelchair can do loads of seated stuff. So upper body, pretty straightforward, do everything in a chair, more or less. And it might be that they've got a bit of lower body movement that we can integrate some movements. Maybe they can't stand up, but maybe they can use assistance to get out of their wheelchair or out of a chair. So it's quite complicated, I guess, is the bottom line, but you need to be able to think outside of the box. So it's very much about doing an overview of the individual. And when we're designing a customized regime for someone, we do a video assessment first of all. And we'll ask them to perform various movements so we can see exactly what they're capable of, and then go away, align that with their goals, consider things such as fatigue as a factor. If someone's severely fatigued, we're going to start them off with just one exercise in their workout. So it might be dumbbell press or seated shoulder press, something like that, and just leave it at that, 3 sets of 10. And if they're comfortable, then we'll layer them on top and gradually build depending on how the client responds. So customized program build, a bit easier. The bigger challenge is when you're trying to design more like an off-the-shelf program for clients, which the MS Warrior program is a lower cost off-the-shelf type template. So you can't just go, oh, this is designed for people with MS. So what we've had to do is break it up into what I call categories, which is basically create an avatar of this is what somebody with MS who could walk might be able to do. This is what someone who might have slightly bad balance. And then we've got someone who might walk with assistance such as a stick or a rollator. And then we've got somebody in a wheelchair. And broadly speaking, most people will fit into one of those avatars. And then what we've done is developed sort of a regime which will suit each of them and split up the muscle groups and kind of made suggestions as to, if you're struggling with fatigue, then maybe start with the first couple of exercises rather than throwing yourself in the deep end. So the sort of the template approach is by far the more challenging one, and you need to put a great deal of thought into it. Whereas we can be a bit more adaptive and responsive when we're working with anybody. I mean, I've talked a lot about MS, but as you've highlighted, I'll work with any condition where someone comes to me and says, I can't do the usual stuff. You know, I've tried this online program, it doesn't suit me.
Right.
We just need to be able to think out of the box to try and find out what is going to suit you.
100%. And it's just like if you were to go to the doctor, right? If you have a particular condition going on, you need to see a specialist. You can't just go to your general practitioner and think they're going to have all the answers. So if you're watching this out there, maybe you do have a condition, maybe it's MS or something else, and you're not sure where to begin, reaching out to someone like Dom, or reach out to Dom, I encourage you to, he can tell you at least where to begin. Maybe it is the MS Warrior program, maybe it is a more customized program. But Dom, I guess on that note, since we're wrapping up, where can folks find you if they want to work with you one-on-one, if they want to hear about your programs, follow you, where can they get a hold of you?
The easiest way is to look for Dom Thorpe. Like, there aren't many other Dom Thorpes, so, and usually I'm highest ranked. So if you search Instagram, Facebook, Google, type in Dom Thorpe, I'll usually be the first one. If I'm not, type in Dom Thorpe, disability trainer, and you'll find me. If you want something specific like the MS Warrior program, just Google that and it will come up. But I'm easily found. There aren't many Dom Thorpes out there.
For sure. And I follow you too, Results with Joe on Instagram. You can go to my followers and catch Dom there. And we'll leave the viewer say with a quote from Jim Rohn. He said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." So if you're looking to create an amazing peer group, you can head over to www.resultswithjoe.com and sign up for my free 5-day Change Your Peer Group, Change Your Life challenge. And I will teach you how to get surrounded by amazing people to help you create real results in your life. And we will see you on the next episode.